Hey, everybody.
Hey there, everyone.
You're fired. This is the last episode with Nate. No,
It was good. We had a good run.
Me
being me.
3 episodes. Welcome back to Artists of the
Welcome
Way.
back, everyone.
I'm Jon, and this is my friend
Nate.
And we are the hosts of Artists of the Way. This episode, we invited on our friend Dawn Day. What does Dawn do, Nate?
Dawn is a mime. She does that classic artwork of performing without talking, using her body in amazing ways to evoke a story and emotion.
It's very fascinating. If you've never really looked into mime and you're just sort of picturing street mime, like using the rope, there's a lot more to it than
Trapped
that.
in a
And
box.
Exactly. Dawn delves into it. It's really rich and great. She talks a lot about the sort of the discipline of it, the beauty of it, and just her story and experience with it. It was a really great conversation.
She was lovely.
If you're on audio, I would say I might encourage you to throw on the YouTube video. She was sort of
talk.
She does talk, but there was some I think just naturally she was doing some demonstrating, and doing some mime.
That was really cool to see.
It was cool to see, and just the precision of her body, the work that she does is incredible. So I definitely encourage throwing it on if you have time. Not if you're in the car. Don't do that. What are you doing?
You'll be fine.
You won't die. It's fine. It'll be fine.
Don't blame me.
Just hold us right in front of you. Make sure you've got a good view.
Use both screens.
When the cop pulls you over, say, "Listen, officer, mime." Mime.
You'll get it.
But yes, it is a really great episode. You guys are going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for coming on and being willing to chat with us. I'm excited to chat and talk about mime and all that. And
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me
yeah.
here. It's an honor to be here.
It's going to be great. First, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself for anybody who doesn't know you or isn't super familiar with what you do?
Okay, so my name is Dawn Day, and I am a mime performer. I didn't start out being a mime performer, though. I started out being a dancer.
Oh, okay.
That must have translated well, having that training.
It really did. I just didn't know how God was going to use that. Because my idea was to be in musical theater.
Okay.
So I went from high school right into ballet school and trying out for musicals and whatever I could try out for, I did. And I loved it. I loved it. I didn't necessarily like the atmosphere behind the scenes, but I loved being on the stage and being in the musicals itself.
Did you do dance in high school?
I did not. I was never good enough. They didn't want me.
I feel like that happens a lot. We're like the people that really excel at it further on in life.
Yes,
or later on, it's like, no, we're not going to let you in.
I think that God does that because it makes you work harder, and you don't take it for granted.
Yeah, we at the same time.
Yeah. And it did make me work harder. I was just like bound and determined to go into ballet school, and I was in like 3 different schools at once because one of the schools only taught ballet and the other 2 taught jazz, tap, modern.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you learned all that as well.
I did. I learned everything. I was like a sponge.
Oh, nice.
So I just loved dance, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But,
How long were you in those schools?
Well, the pure ballet school, I was in there for 3 years, and then the other 2, it got a little much working full time, paying for all that, and getting all those classes and no car.
No car.
Well, I grew up in Chicago, or near Chicago, and so you didn't want a car. You wanted to take the bus or the L or something because it was very expensive to have a car. So, there's all that traveling time and stuff. So, but once I met my husband down there.
Okay.
And we got married. And once I got married, that kind of musical, I didn't try out for as many musicals as I used to.
Sure.
I was in several Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, not as a soloist.
Okay.
That's where
so
I
don't
would be
ask
too.
me.
Yeah.
I just as a chorus, but they wanted me in there because I had the dance.
Sure. Yeah.
And so,
Do that part.
yeah. And then my first mime teacher was Tony Daniels, who was a student of Marceau's
Okay.
in Paris.
Wow.
And so I only took mime so I could get better at creating a character. Because I knew, and my dad directed me every which way. Because he was an artist himself. Well,
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, he,
Yes.
the singer.
The singer,
yeah.
our illustrations, yeah.
So everything, if I had interest, he's like directed me towards the best possible,
Right.
scenario,
Yeah.
and not trying to cheat or circumvent that learning experience.
How cool to have that direction advocate from your dad like that.
Yeah. And, when I was growing up, there was all these variety shows.
Yeah.
Marceau was on all those variety shows.
Okay.
So every time he was on, my dad's like, oh, sit down and look at this. And I'm like, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I grew up really loving the art form,
Yeah.
knowing that it would help me in musical theater and acting.
Yeah.
And that's what I took it for.
Yeah.
So.
And then did you just fall in love with it in that class and decide to pursue it more? How did you get
Well,
sucked
there's
more into
a
that
transition
world?
there.
Yeah.
So we had 3 kids down there, and I was part of a clown group.
Oh, okay.
So they hired me out to do birthday parties and Bastille Day because I had the Hope Perot costume. And
Wow.
found out that I really hated that.
What did you hate about it?
The audience is very abusive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Not everyone likes clowns. Yeah.
oh. Yeah. Not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I'm like, I
like
didn't
clowns.
sign up for this, And at the same time, we were going to move up to Michigan,
Yeah.
Okay.
to Wyoming, Michigan, and
That's where I live.
that's where I raised my kids.
What brought you to Michigan?
Well, Dale had a lot of family up here
Okay.
already, and his uncle was going to sell the house. It was a nice 5-bedroom house,
Wow.
and it was right by Grace Bible College, which is Grace University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his family all worked there, and the Chicago area, we could never hope to get a home. We both have to work, and that's not what we wanted to do with our kids.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Put them in daycare and me work and musical theater is a big
Yeah.
money maker.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, let's move, and then that was the same year that Pris McDonald came down to see my father about doing the singer, the backdrops for the first time they did the singer.
Oh, cool.
And my dad's like, come here, you got to meet her. And I'm like, okay. And so I met her down in Chicago at my parents' house. And my dad's like, she runs a theater. You need to check this out. And she talked to me, and I was like, wow, yeah, I'd like to do that. Work with other Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so so we landed in the house on a weekend. By Monday, I was down the street knocking on their door because they were located down the street from me.
Okay.
Had 3 kids, and I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'm ready. Give me something. So she sent me home with street theater skits.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I joined street theater, and she also knew I had some mime training, not a lot at that point, but some. And she's like, we got to use that. Nobody else here does that. We got to use that.
Yeah.
And so I was on the street theater team, and she started using me in a different way that I never really thought about, you know, and using the art of mime to minister.
Yeah.
And it was really a neat experience, because I just never figured I would be doing that.
That's so interesting to have someone pull you or push you into something that would be a great love and ministry, not something that you planned.
Yeah. It wasn't. I mean, God just put Pris right there in front of me, and she was my mentor. She just, when I didn't want to do just mime, she's like, why not?
Interesting.
Why not? You're the only one that does it right now. You got to do it. And I'm like, okay.
So she's like, kind of push aside those desires of yourself.
Yeah.
You got to use this.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that's a fairly Pris response.
It was.
It's like, well, that's nice.
I don't want to do that.
But you're so good at it, so we'll have you do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Exactly. She was to let me off the hook. And that was a good thing, because through Master Arts, I met the teachers that really, like, catapulted me into.
Is that right?
Yeah, from like A to Z, all the mime that I could ever want to study.
Yeah.
And things that I didn't even know existed within the mime experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And again, I was like a sponge.
The more you learned, the more you fell in love with it.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much I don't know.
Yeah.
And my two teachers were also students of Marcel Marceau's in Paris. They had a school out in Pasadena called Mimeistry International. Now, it was Todd and Marilyn Farley, and they were exactly my age. But they had no kids, and they were in, they actually started out in St. Louis, and then they moved to Pasadena. So I could never go to their school full time. But what made it cool is that he wrote down everything, and he had different lectures, and he had written down all the body types and the statues and the hand designs and everything. And it was something I could do correspondent like that.
Interesting.
Like I could, he had a videotape, an instructional videotape, and then he kept doing them.
Yeah.
So I'd buy them and go through them and master that and read all the material that he had.
Yeah.
This is before like online schools were a thing.
Absolutely.
This is truly correspondence.
Didn't know how to work a computer at all. So, it was before that. So
How did that work with mime? Because that's sort of similar to a lot of the way I studied acting and kind of got into that as just sort of like, we're just going to find what I can, and learn and study it myself. But mime is so disciplined and precise. How did that work when it's something that you kind of have to observe, I feel like, outside of yourself to see how locked
someone
how locked in
evaluating
is
you?
it? Yeah, how did...
Well, the dance experience helped because all their basic movements start out in ballet movements.
Okay.
So I already knew all that.
Yeah.
I was dedicated. I would sit and watch the video and master each movement before I moved on. I was dedicated. And they would have 2-week workshops in Traverse City during the summer.
Nice.
So me and my friend Christy Warfel, we would always go.
Yeah.
And so we'd have like 2 weeks solid of just, you don't think that there's enough mime to go 2 weeks, 8 hours a day, but there is.
Wow.
And my body felt it too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
so cool.
Yeah, but that was a really cool thing that I could do. And then by that time, I had a mime team, because my church wanted me to train these kids to do a mission trip.
Mm.
And these kids liked it so much, they're like, we want to do this all the time.
Mm.
So I trained them, and we traveled all over Grand Rapids. And the other thing was that Todd and Marilyn would come here for a workshop for my kids.
Oh, nice.
So we got we had a two-day workshop, and
Sweet.
they did that often, and at least once a year. Plus we did CETA.
Yep.
And so with all that, you have to be dedicated.
Christians in theater arts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. CETA did kind of, they've sort of fizzled out since we've kind of gotten heavy in, but it was a national organization.
It was huge. It was in,
Wow.
the big one I experienced was in Houston, and Pris and a bunch of street theater people went down there for workshops, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, really great. Everything that I've heard about just that and that atmosphere and just sort of that time in the Christian arts world and sort of the community that was there just has sounded so sweet and special, just seeing how God worked in everybody really on this broad countrywide level, it seems like. Yeah,
it was. You got to network with other people that wrote scripts or did some street theater style things, and Pris would actually get material from them. That's the first time I ever saw Smoke on the Mountain. As Jeanette Cliff George's team did that.
Over 80 players down there.
Yeah. So that's why Pris is like, oh, we got to do that,
do
you
that
know?
show.
And I'm like,
It's a
yes, you
great
have to do
show.
that.
Yeah.
If I could sing, I would want to try out for that, but but they did a great job with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, how old were your kids when you moved to Michigan?
All right. Deanna was 6, Crystal was 3, and Sean was 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to hear about how your process of doing art while being a mother to these kids and how you prioritize things and just that whole thing, because my family's kind of in that place now. We have 2 boys under 2. And
you're doing it.
Yeah. And I just love to hear your experience and God's calling for you in the midst of that and how you balance those things.
Well, I think God pulled in homeschooling. I never heard about homeschooling before. And so your kids do life with you when you homeschool. Yeah. So, they're going with me to street theater things. They're volunteering, and they're 2 of my kids were actually on my Silent Light team. So
beautiful.
Yeah, they would see me perform. They would go to the plays. They we just kind of did life with them like that. That was
brought
us.
Them along.
Yes, just bring them along, and it's easier to do that when you're homeschooling.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Don't have to drop them off and pick them up and arrange the schedule around it.
No, it's not like you have 2 separate worlds.
Yeah.
So street theater used to practice in my living room. And my kids would invite the neighborhood kids to come to the practice.
Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Have volunteers right there. You don't have to.
All the volunteers we wanted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. My wife and I are planning to homeschool. We were both homeschooled and had a great experience with it. And so I really resonate with that. It's so cool to hear that worked for you guys, that you were able to do your passion, but without abandoning your family to do it.
Yeah. And, here's what you got to remember. You got to keep everything in balance. And, I was so driven that sometimes I would get out of balance.
Sure.
And someone would have to pull me back in.
Okay.
And stuff. But, so it's not like, oh, yeah, that was all easy and everything.
Yeah,
and,
right.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's a caution there. But
yeah, very fair.
Yeah.
I feel like anybody at any season of life, it's easy to get that out of balance and just get so caught up on one particular thing, or oftentimes the same thing over and over again, and everything else just sort of blows up around you.
Yeah, you gotta keep in touch. Okay, how's the rest of my life doing? Right. Oh, maybe I need to back off.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. I want to come back and talk more about mime, but I wanted to ask a couple questions we always ask guests each episode. First, I'm curious, what are some ways right now for you, either as a creator or as somebody who's engaging with art as an audience member, how's God using art in your life right now?
How is God using art in my life? I think that God uses that. He sends along some ideas, choreography, songs, and they really resonate with me for whatever season I'm going through. And it's kind of like a healing process for me, but also reaching out to the audience, someone going through that same thing, or going through a hard time. I think God just sends you visions and thoughts and dreams about what you can do with certain ideas, certain emotions, in a way that He wants. It's not about me. It's about God touching them. So how can He use me as a vessel to touch them? And sometimes, I'm like, are you sure about this? He's like, yep. And so I'm like, okay, I really feel it, but it really is resonating with me. But the fear is always, am I resonating? Is it resonating with anybody else?
So
or is it just me doing me on stage?
Oh yeah.
Would He sometimes have you do like bolder choices than you would have opted to do by yourself? Would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely gotten more bold or more raw emotion without being too overboard with it.
Right. And there's I think that's an interesting balance of like, am I doing this for the benefit of others and to create something that is glorifying to God and has sort of an image of truth, or am I doing this for like my own self-gratification, emotionally there? I think that's an interesting. And
as a performer, of course, you want to be on stage. There's that performer part of you. And you can't, and that's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Because you want to do everything in excellence. There's so many people in my life, are not like surrounding me, my close circle, but people that come in. Why do you have to work so hard at it? Why do you have to do it this way? Why do you have to have so many rehearsals? Why? And I'm like, well, I don't want to put a sloppy job up on the stage. I want to glorify God.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I want to glorify God. I got to erase myself, too. And so it's kind of that balance again, another balance. In mime, though, when you're in full costume with the makeup, it is like you're erasing yourself. Because you can change characters You, and not to be weird about it, but you can change the gender. So I can play a male or female part.
Right.
There's nothing weird about that.
No.
It's just what you're portraying.
But that's the beauty of mime, is like you are erasing that whole, like, this is Dawn
You're just
Day.
the canvas.
Yes.
Yes.
Just
That's
a
good way to put it.
canvas. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that is interesting. I hadn't thought about the degree to which that's heightened in mime, because I think a lot of times it's good for artists to kind of get rid of themselves in the work. Like, there's parts of you need to bring to whatever work you're doing, but you don't want to be in the way of whatever work you're doing. I think it can be easy for artists to get in the way of the work that they're doing.
And is that probably the purpose of the makeup, is so that they're not looking at you, but you can be anybody that they need to see in that character, kind of thing?
One of the purposes is that, is to just have a blank canvas. And that's why the costume itself is not ornate. It's like, it's not tight fitting like,
like ballet.
Like ballet, but it's fitting enough where it doesn't get caught in a movement, or it's not it's not going to the costume.
Right.
You're not depending on the costume.
Right.
They don't see the costume.
No.
And then the other ancient reason for the makeup is because that's how they told stories and told news. Ancient Greece, Rome, and they put on the makeup to emphasize the structure of the face, all the movement of the face. See, so the audience way in the back can see the emotions of the face.
I see.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I think anytime I've watched your pieces or other mime pieces, and often, like you have seen Christine Pruitt, who you taught, both of whom I know outside of the context of the makeup and mime, and I do think there's something very distinct about the face that does seem more than just making the expression.
Yeah.
It does seem to enhance it in some way.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So a lot of different things go with that makeup.
It kind of makes it like an archetype almost. When you look at that, it's like, this is like this essential character kind of thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's neat. Cool. Is there anything that you're actively working on right now that you're creating?
Well, a couple years ago we did a full mime show. Christine and Ben came in to do that show. It wasn't well attended, but I thought we had a good show. They did their thing. I did my solo pieces, and then we did a group piece called Storyteller. And Storyteller is about the life of Jesus' ministry while he's down here on earth. So it goes from his ministry, crucifixion, resurrection.
Okay.
But instead of having biblical characters, it kind of reminded me of The Singer a little bit.
Yeah.
Where the singer was the Christ figure.
Yeah.
But the storyteller is the Christ figure. And, all the parables, come right from the Bible. I mean, but the 5 characters are named anxiety, greed, weakness, fear, and anyway.
And another one.
And
sounds
another
like Inside
one.
Out. I think that's the anger. Is the last
Anger. And so
You were right.
you were right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to Pixar there.
So the gist of it was everybody could see themselves in these characters, and these characters related to Christ, and in their own way. How anger was always like, this at Christ, I don't need, I don't need. And where weakness was always, help me, and they all had different roles, and it was a really cool project. And it was written by Steve Fry and choreographed by my teacher, Todd Farley.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it came out way back in '96, and they made it so each of the groups, churches, whatever, could buy the package and the training and the materials that went with it, and it was supposed to be evangelistic piece out on the street.
Okay.
Yeah, and we used it a lot, and we were even starting to train in Spanish so we could do the Spanish community.
Nice. Yeah.
But
so interesting.
Yeah,
so there's like a Spanish track.
Yes, very much so, and we used it a lot. That team, both my girls and Christine were in it.
Nice.
The McDaniel girls were in it, and they all had their turns in it, and it was such a cool piece. And so I resurrected that for that show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did it, and it worked really well. And then, of course, Christine and Ben have their hands full.
Right.
And so do my daughters. So and they're all homeschool families. So we're like, okay, let's take a break. And but I really would like to get that going again.
Yeah. You sent me the video, and I had a chance to watch the performance today, and that was really neat. Just the vagueness of it, but and obviously it's mime, so none of the characters are talking, but there's singing going on throughout, and just the pairing of the really crisp and beautiful physical movement and dance paired with the scripture did hit in some cool, and it was cool. The vagueness of it allowed me to identify with some different characters based on where I'm kind of at emotionally right now, and seeing Christ interact with that. It was really beautiful. So
good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Great.
Yeah.
They filmed that during one of the workshops that I was at. I mean, I knew those people that were there, and they did that while we were taking the workshops up there. So yeah, it was really cool to be on the ground floor of that. As soon as they made it available, my team was training for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then I'd like to put on do some of my solo pieces. So we'll see what happens. Right now, my body is taking a little break, and we're in Pilates classes, trying to just keep up, without constantly injuring myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that because I know in ballet that's it takes a big toll on your body. Does mime put a similar toll on the body as dance and ballet do?
It can. Probably not as much as ballet, because if you're a ballerina, you're up on the
toes,
on point,
right?
But what we started doing, we started getting into more physical theater, where we were doing partnering and weight sharing and weight bearing.
Oh wow!
And that was really cool, but you do need your strength for that,
right?
There are some moves that I can't do anymore. Like I used to do Arise My Love, and I used to go all the way on the floor on my knees, do a hinge all the way back, and then it said Arise My Love, and I would slowly come up, and then I'd get up, and I'm like, talk about rip your knees apart.
I love seeing you do that piece. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've had to alter that piece because of that one movement. You just can't do anymore.
Yeah,
sure.
For sure.
But yeah. So.
I'm interested in, you talked about how you kind of wanted to do some different things, but Pris said, "Oh, you just got to do this one thing." That's just kind of interesting concept to like. There's a little bit of that dying to yourself, and like, how do you feel about that now? That focus on like, this is what I'm gifted and I'm gonna stay here. Or
I
do you
think
feel that way
she's
still?
brilliant.
Okay.
Because, how you can do so many things, you're not good at anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm not the only one that's experienced that.
We were immediately there.
Okay. Well, that was me. I was in street theater. I was in Fiddler. I was in Great Divorce.
Oh, wow.
I was, I was juggling my kids, homeschool, everything, and that's one of the places I got out of balance. Mm-hmm. And someone needed to direct me and go, "No, you need to do this because no one else does it."
Yeah.
And that's when I ran into Mimeistry, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is really cool. It was because I wasn't bored with the art form anymore, because it opened up a whole new world for me that I didn't know, and I could learn. I could just learn it.
Yeah.
And so it was different than what I perceived it to be. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people think they know what mime is because they see the street mimes, but that's just a very surfacey kind of mime. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not good mimes. It takes a lot of guts to be out there like that.
Right, in their little glass box.
Yes.
Somebody can just wheel them away.
Yeah. But that's all anybody is exposed to, including myself.
Right.
Until I met my teachers in Mimeistry.
What was it artistically that excited you as it grew deeper? Were there things about it that you were like, this is so unique how I can express myself artistically with this that I can't anywhere else, or that has a special facet because of mime?
Well, they taught you to use your body as a tool, that you can use for acting or dancing, or and you learn how to hone that, take charge of your body and command that. You build your character, and you knew how to use your body parts. They had it broke down to head, neck, chest, pelvis, feet, hands. I mean, and there was a different...
Bet you're really good at the robot.
I try.
Yeah, great.
But to know that the head portrays a certain emotion. Yeah. And where does that emotion come from? Well, it comes from down here, and it builds and it goes out.
Yes.
Instead of it's here and then it's out.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? Building a character, we studied the masters, sculptors, painters, and with one, they're not moving. Right. None of those things are moving. They have to explain a story with no movement at all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they're still so alive.
Yes.
Even in that.
So he studies that. Todd Barley studies that and said, well, like the statue of David, his head's turned, and, and he's got these strong arms and hands, and, the muscles are tense, getting ready for a battle, and so there's all this body sculpting, rhythms, different rhythms to your characters. So you're not moving in the same rhythm all the time. Yeah. There's hundreds of hand designs that you have to learn.
Really?
Yeah. Just the warm-ups are incredibly difficult. backward and forward inclinations, side inclinations, rotations. That's how we opened up the class every day, you know, and you know, our walking in place.
I love your walking in place.
Anytime I see that, I'm like, I cannot imagine the strength
awesome.
and discipline of making that happen.
Yeah, it's part of the illusions, but it's condensing time and space. So there's a one piece that I do called Treasure, and I'm digging for a treasure. Well, you know, you don't spend like 10 minutes doing nothing but digging.
Yeah.
You know, the audience is going to go bye-bye.
Yeah.
So you condense time and space. So you start digging, and it gets harder and harder. Here's where the rhythm comes in. Slower and slower. And, you know, you rotate to make time pass right in front of them.
Yes.
And then they believe it.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
I believe it. You know? So they believe it. And all of a sudden,
right there, I believe it.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a treasure you've been digging for hours, you know, within a minute time.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So it's all the stuff that you learn. It's like, you know, just I was just a sponge. I just was fascinated. Different rhythms were key to creating your character. And Pris also had me do mime for actors.
What's that?
Well, I was teaching the actor how to use their bodies.
Okay.
And it was all plotted out for me by my teachers. I'd teach them exactly what I learned in mime. Very beginning, very basics. And some actors liked it, and some thought that they didn't need it.
Yep.
But she would have me come in to do critiquing of a certain play or a certain scene if it required a lot of physical movement.
I bet you could really help me.
I'd love to.
I don't feel like I always know what to do with my body. It's a bit gangly.
You're really good. I mean, I love it when I see you in something.
I think that's most performers too. I think there's just something about when you're supposed to be something on stage, all of a sudden you're like, this isn't that though, you know?
Yeah. That's where a lot of actors get tripped up is like, all of a sudden they forget what their natural self would do.
Yeah.
If they were in that situation.
Right.
If they were angry. If they were joyful. And a lot of them, this is where she would want me to help, like make their character in a particular scene match their dialogue. So in one particular play I was working, I don't remember which one it was, but the character always wanted, she was yelling. It was an angry scene. But the only thing that changed was the tone of her voice. Okay, but I didn't believe the character because she was into herself like this. Now when you're angry, you're not into yourself. You create space. You take up as much space as you need, and you're aggressive. And some of the characters depend on their costumes or the dialogue. And they never do anything with their bodies. And so that's what she would come in and, or she'd have me come in and help with body characters, you know. Or she'd have me do like, I was in The Great Divorce, but she also had me do there's different mime things in the divorce, like when he's picking up the apples.
Oh, yeah.
Or when they're holding on to the straps on the bus.
I've not seen the show. I've loved the book. I'd love to see that show sometime, though.
Oh, yeah. It was
good.
It was Pris's favorite.
Is that right?
We did it 3 times, and I was in it all 3 times.
Wow.
And guess what? I played the dwarf all 3 times.
You were the dwarf. Oh, wow. That's kind
Come
of
in
a
for
rough
auditions,
character.
Pris is just like,
Yeah.
well, that's good.
No, but the reason why she had me doing the dwarf is because, like, I'm short, yes.
Helps.
But it was, I could appear shriveled up.
Right, because that gets small. The dwarf gets smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah, I could really appear to shrink. And that was an illusion that, I could actually pull off.
Okay.
So
that's great.
But,
I'm curious. I'm getting like geeky acting, like just listening to him. Like I want to just dissect what all this means for performers. Because I've delved some into like the physicality of things, and I think about that. But I tend to be a very spontaneous actor who comes from like the emotion of it, and I'm very familiar with my brain jumping around in various places. But is there any dichotomy to you trying to be in the moment and in the emotion of what's happening in the world of the story, while also trying to be so precise with your body to communicate that same emotion?
Or are you doing it exactly the same every time you perform it?
Don't do it exactly the same.
Okay.
A lot of it's muscle memory. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Sure.
But I don't do it exactly the same. I mean, even my own choreography, there might be slight differences. And what's really scary is you get an idea while you're performing.
I've been there. And you're like, oh, this is great. Yep.
I did that in the last show, and you thought that I got like hit by someone because I
yes.
my choreography. That wasn't a good idea.
It was because okay, now I have to tell this story. It was because you missed the other choreography.
Yeah.
So Nate was Jesus in Godspell, so he gets crucified at the end, as you do. There's a moment where one of the people would kick him in the face, and then he's supposed to get picked up and slapped 3 times by different people. And Nate goes down with that, and then is like, pretends that he's like bleeding.
I was like, what? Like, I really press into, he's like bleeding maybe? And I want to kind of think about that and portray that. And I forgot, I have choreography I'm supposed to be doing.
So all I saw was Nate go down harder than normal with the kick and then get up and miss the slaps while also acting like he's bleeding. And I was like, oh my gosh, Nate got kicked in the temple. Is he going to die in 5 seconds?
And then after the show's over, people come to me like, are you okay?
I like rushed across the stage. It's like, did you die?
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, no, I'm fine. I just thought I'd pretend that I was bleeding. I was like, Nate, you missed those slaps. You gave me a heart attack. But then I was really impressed with your singing on the cross because I was like, wow, he's singing really good for having just been concussed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So is a lot of it then just training so that when I have to be angry about this particular thing and grab at this, that you know what you kind of instinctively know what your body needs to do?
Absolutely. And
you definitely seem very engaged while you perform. So it's not like, I've done this 100 times, I'm just going to phone it in, my body knows what it's doing.
No, it's I could do a song a lot or a particular piece a lot, but I'm always in that thought, in that moment.
Good. Yeah.
And there's I don't know about you guys, but there's always some things that are easier than others.
Yes.
And for me, if there's I always took on the angry parts. Oh, that's another reason Pris wanted me. As a dwarf. emotion of anger comes very natural.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I
Do you get angry a lot in your real life?
I used to.
You used to.
I
Okay.
used to. God dealt with me, but
Interesting.
but I used to.
Uh-huh.
And that there's some emotions that come better than others, and you. But you have to dig down and just pull them out. You just pull them out and use it for whatever scene you're doing in stuff. Muscle memory, it all ties together.
Yeah. But you're kind of free to do that exploration because
I
you've
am.
done so much work and put in, have disciplined yourself to
Yeah.
know what your body
Yeah,
needs to do.
it's not like, oh, I got to put my feet here and I
Right.
got to turn my body here and this hand has to go here and
Right.
there. It's it comes out
Yeah.
just like that, and I mean that's
Just like as an actor, if you have your lines memorized so well, you
Yeah.
have so much more freedom
exactly
in the part because, of course, this is what my character's going to say.
Right.
We just know that and
Right.
stuff, and
Right.
then you're free to act even more
To just live and
natural
respond, yeah.
because you put that work in and you know what you need to do.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy of having the rigidness of these are the things I need to do, and then it gives you freedom to
Yes.
do other things.
Yes. Marcel said you learn the rules to break them.
Ah.
I love that.
Yeah, that was his. And so you learn, you just go through all those paces. And I would never open up a class without doing all those warm-ups.
Yeah.
Keep it to the
The
keep the
basics.
fundamentals.
Because
right there.
because then they had all that, it's just like doing the scales on the piano.
Yeah.
Say that, yeah.
Because you warm up like that, you have all that vocabulary shall I
Yes.
say, behind you, and you can pull from it.
Yeah.
Or playing sports. If you know the footwork it takes to make a layup in basketball by doing them over and over, you're not thinking about it when you're in the game.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And you never
Yeah.
get to this point of being so advanced.
No.
I think it's easy to think, well, I've gotten to this level, so this is the work that I do now. I don't do the basics. But I'm gonna mention Hamlet. Everybody take a drink. I mentioned Hamlet way too much on this podcast. But that's the skull. That's true.
Oh, yeah.
I was in that role and I'm like, oh, this is so advanced and oh, I'm doing such great work. And then opening weekend, I was like, I'm forgetting to just kind of go moment to moment, which is just such simple, basic acting. To just let yourself go moment to moment and just live in that moment. And I'm like, oh, I've forgotten the number one rule with everything else that I'm doing. I've forgotten to stick to that basic thing and ground myself in that.
Yeah. Well, it's just it's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things we mentioned when we were chatting, kind of leading up to this, is you talked about wanting to chat a little bit about some of your struggles as an artist and with the church, and that's a dichotomy I'm sure everybody listening is familiar with, because this podcast is all about our Christian faith.
Right.
Yeah, what are some of the struggles you've had there, and how have you navigated that? Because the church, I think, at least in my experience, I think it's getting better with artists, but it's had this weird relationship, I think, for a long time.
Especially the performing art
Yes,
part of it.
Sure.
And then it's been an up and down roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
When I first met Pris and I was at our church, the music director wanted me to do a mime piece, a Christmas mime piece to a song she picked out, and I did it. And then I did an Easter piece to Watch the Lamb, which I still do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you would have thought that I had put a bomb in the church. Because
Really? So the music director, she was all about, but
she was, and Pris was,
congregation.
but oh my word, it started a whole controversy.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, and anyway,
what were some of the
critiques?
outcries?
They
about
did
it?
not like dance.
Yeah,
They did not
even
like-
mime.
Oh yeah, no,
Man.
that was anything movement.
It's such a shame because God invented
I know.
that and put that in you and put that in people, and you're using it to honor Him in ways that are different that you can't get any other way.
Well, to me, it's like you have your sight and your sound and your and you also have movement. When you can put all those three together, it's very powerful.
For sure.
And that's why people, in Africa, we were just in Kenya.
Oh.
And their churches, they're dancing all over the place. And I was like, this is great. I'm
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
But anyway, to be fair, our church learned to love it because the kids responded well to it. And with some of their kids, some of their grandkids that were on my mime team, and they saw there was a real revolution there where they actually saw what good it could do and how they were evangelizing through this art form.
Amazing.
So some of my biggest critics ended up being my pretty good friends.
That is great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But I think that right now we're going through a worship songs only.
Right.
And nobody really knows what to do with me now. And it takes a creative pastor or music minister to go, I think that one of your pieces would go good with this sermon.
Yeah.
Or like we learned how to do pulpit support. So, the pastor would ask you to do something and you'd be like supporting his sermon.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's cool too, because I think that if you think about like church history and how artists have been utilized, fits with the norm of like they can't read scripture, so let's build this stained glass window. And so if the pastor or priest is preaching on the ascension, there's an image right there that you can look to. And I think, why can't the performing arts do the same thing?
It's just like different parts of the body, and using different parts of the body within the church is so important.
Yeah. But it has to be used the right way. A lot of times it got abused because a church we shall not name has dramas that turned out to be like formulas every week, it's not church in Grand Rapids or anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they were big
That's
on...
not my church.
Huh?
That's not my church.
No, that's not a church here. But they were, they had to have a drama every week.
Wow.
So you pump on out all these scripts. Well, there was a church up here that wanted me to do those scripts. I'm like, okay, did the first one. I didn't like it.
Yep.
I did it. Did the second one. Isn't this like the first one? No. Yeah, it is.
No.
Okay. Don't give me any more of these. I'm not doing it.
It's trash.
And so, you go through people handing you stuff that is not inspirational.
Right.
And you can't really get a thought or idea through because you have no feeling about it.
Well, that makes me think of what you were talking about earlier of like people were like, why are you rehearsing so much? It's like, I want this to be excellent for the Lord. And I think Christians can be like, God can use anything, which he can, but who more should do excellence than the people who are God's people, who is the author of excellence, and who we're supposed to do all things with all our might for his glory.
Right.
And I think there's some value too in saying we can't do this excellently, so God is not calling us to do this thing. We don't have the people in our church or the we don't have the right sort of alchemy or skill set to be able to have dramas regularly.
Yeah.
So I guess that's not what God's called our church to.
We'll focus on what we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And every church has their strengths. And when my team was in existence, those kids worked hard. I didn't expect them to be perfect. I just expected them to work hard.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's all.
And to really want to do that, and that's what I was looking for, not perfection.
Yeah,
right.
I was looking for perfection for me,
right,
which wasn't always a good thing either.
Yeah, again, that's back to the balance type of thing, because God doesn't need you to be perfect.
But if I wanted them to do a good job, I had to show them excellence.
Yeah.
If I took it and that's okay. You don't have you don't have to work on that.
No, it's not inspiring. Right.
Yeah. It wouldn't have turned out to be the team that we had, and we worked with an evangelist that had AIDS, and we went to different schools with him.
Yeah.
And we worked with a local rap artist that had block parties in the summertime.
Wow.
And all that stuff was so interesting and fun, and we really ministered to some of the kids. And it helped that it wasn't just me.
Right.
That it was like the kids in the audience could see kids that were their age up on stage doing this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
This time has flown by. Yeah, we're nearing the end here.
Okay.
Thank you for coming on again. This has been a lovely discussion.
Yeah, it's been so good and interesting.
Yes.
I just love your work.
Oh, thank you.
It's been cool to hear more about it.
Oh, thank you.
One of the questions I ask at the end, because similar to you, my sort of education has sort of been scrappy in the arts, and so I like to be able to provide resources for people and to our audience when I can. Are there any resources you would recommend, either that have really helped you in your Christian faith, or for anybody who's interested in mime or exploring more of the physical side of performing arts?
Well, I know Push Physical Theater, who also trained me, has a summer intensive workshop.
Cool. Where are they?
They're in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
But people from all over the country go and see them, and Christine and Ben were on there, and they do excellent work. Todd Farley has his stuff on YouTube.
Okay.
Instructional.
Nice.
The video, he's allowed it to be on YouTube now.
That's awesome.
And I think it's a very obscure art right now. So your best way would be to look up Mimeistry International, Todd Farley, look up the instructional videos, look up Push Physical Theater.
Okay.
And, of course, anybody could get a hold of me at Master Arts.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Because if anybody's interested, I'd consider holding a class and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And we'll have that information in the description below too, so people can follow that there. Right?
Under the table.
Under the table.
Right down there. Just scroll, move us this way. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Dawn. It was so great to to chat and hear your story a little bit more and spend this time together. It was great.
Thanks for having me on.
I will say that you did a great job explaining all this and talking, but I thought it would be hilarious if you didn't talk at all.
He messaged me and he's like, we should just have her mime everything. We'll really ramp up our YouTube numbers for this episode.
We would talk, but then
we would talk, and then you can mime whatever.
I'd be in trouble.
Any of our audio listeners would just be like, what on earth?
What on this?
It's avant-garde.
There's a frustration that would turn into an anger. That would be good.